Good morning, it is 8:55 and I'm Brie Thiele with your local news update. Congressional candidate Art Robinson says Oregon State University plans to expel his children because the school doesn't like his politics.
Seafood processors say the individual trawl quota program is necessary in order to keep fishing practices sustainable. Local fishermen counter though, saying it's hard for them to turn a profit.
An in-school nutrition and physical activity program is changing the way some local kids view health and exercise.
The newly renovated historical hollering place has deep roots within our community. It was one of the first places Native American settlers landed before expanding to other parts of the state.
A tangled mess of crab pots and rope created quite an obstacle for local fishermen navigating in and out of the channel in Charleston, but thanks to one quick-thinking crabber, the mess is now on dry land.
Local residents love Bassendorf Beach, but they have concerns about law enforcement, trash dumping, sanitation, and overnight camping. Because of this, agencies have come together to try and draft a plan to resolve some of these issues.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this edition of People at Noon. Joining me today is Connie Gerling with the Women's Safety and Resource Center and Stacy Rose, who is a local musician. We have so much local talent in our community, so it's great to be able to showcase that, but also you're going to have bands from outside of the South Coast, correct?
You bet.
Organizers say the plan this fall is to open up North Bay School as it is right now, a K-5 with about 150 students. Farther down the line, though, they plan to add more grades.
This morning, video of Angela McAnulty's interview with detectives the night her daughter died. She pleaded guilty to killing her 15-year-old daughter, Jeanette Maples, and now a 12-person jury will decide her sentence.
Covered bridges like the Sandy Creek Bridge are extremely rare. In fact, Oregon is one of just 5 states in the entire U.S. that's kept their covered bridges up and running.
2010 was a tough year for general contractors, but thanks to some stimulus projects in Coos County, the lights are once again shining brightly at one local electrical contracting company.
Port officials are still picking up the puzzle pieces from Friday's tsunami surge, which caused damage to finger piers on G-Dock and ruined pilings on D-Dock. Thankfully, no boats were sunk and no one was hurt. Congressman DeFazio says they'll have to decide whether Coos Bay should be included in Oregon's disaster declaration.
There's some serious damage here to the docks. We're talking probably, a pretty substantial bill for repair. There's questions about navigability because there's been some large sand movement, and then we've got to see whether or not they have insurance coverage, whether or not we could get Coos Bay included in the disaster declaration.
County commissioners will now determine whether there's enough damage here to qualify for disaster relief. Port authorities have said they believe there's close to $70,000 worth of repairs that need to be made. DeFazio says commissioners in Curry County passed a request for a disaster declaration on Sunday. Although the damage in our neck of the woods isn't as extensive, he says alert systems up and down the coast uncovered real problems. While some tsunami sirens worked and some didn't, DeFazio says different areas chose to sound the alarm at different times, and the reverse 911 system in Curry County was totally defeated.
What we're worried about is a quake of a similar magnitude proximate to the Oregon coast, much shorter warning time. People are going to have to respond very quickly. Down in Curry County, the reverse 911 system didn't work because they had so many incoming calls they couldn't call out.
The congressman says the state will review mandatory warnings and set them at a standard time so everyone receives a warning in uniform fashion. Now, while you may or may not be able to hear those alerts, DeFazio says one of the best ways to receive information is via a weather radio.
Every house was equipped with a small radio, so if there was an escape, it would tell them the wind direction and what to do. I'm wondering, whether that should be part of the future, is looking at, having people with these very inexpensive little, alert units.
All in all, DeFazio says Friday's natural disaster was almost a practice drill for everybody, but it's important for all local residents to be aware of what to do in case of an emergency. In Charleston, I'm Brie Thiele, KCBY News. It's not your average high school woodshop class. Out on a job site in Coos Bay, advanced Marshfield High School carpentry students are learning what it takes to build a house, up close and personal. It's all part of carpentry teacher and Pirate basketball coach Jesse Ainsworth's vision when he took over the department.
I wanted to teach a real construction class. I didn't want to teach it out of a shop. And that was my vision, and we've been doing it for 5 years now. And We've probably been on 20 to 30 different builds, and every year it seems like we do something different, but it's always real construction.
These high school seniors start out as freshmen in Ainsworth's Intro to Carpentry class, and if they stick with it, they move on up the ladder, earning a spot in his advanced class. Ainsworth says these young men are learning real-life skills that aren't taught in a classroom.
The majority of these boys actually go into the construction field. We've been actually teaching this class for 5 years now, and so far we have 15 kids in the construction industry, from electricians to plumbers to carpenters. So it's actually turning out real workers in the real world, and they're getting hands-on experience.
And senior student Kai Stuffelbein agrees. Advanced carpentry is his favorite class, and he finds that being out in the field helps the knowledge stick.
You can learn it in the classroom, but yet you could go out to the job site and you're still not knowing what you're doing unless someone's showing you, actually showing you, and then you're learning more on top of that. And it usually stays in your head, and you just have to ask a lot of questions and get it down.
What was once an empty lot now lies structure and a foundation. These Coos Bay High School students are learning the tools of the trade and earning a nationally recognized certification while doing so. One of just 5 programs in the entire United States, Marshfield High School's construction program is nationally certified. Kids who spend 2 years in the program receive a certificate that's a great addition to any high school student's resume. In Coos Bay, I'm Brie Thiele, KCBY News. You could hear a pin drop inside the Coos County Commissioner's courtroom as officials and members of the community rushed to an emergency meeting Wednesday morning. There wasn't a dry eye in the house as Commissioner Main told the crowd that his friend and colleague Andy Jackson died late Tuesday night from what seems to be a massive heart attack. Main says Jackson was one of those rare people who was honest, kind, and friendly.
We go places together to a function or a restaurant. And it was like this great big teddy bear magnet. People would come from all over the restaurant, wherever, go right to him and talk to him. He'd have 3, 4, 5, a dozen people around him talking to him. It was just amazing.
Apparently, Jackson had been at Bay Area Hospital since Sunday concerning what Maine calls a minor medical procedure. The hospital was keeping him for observation until Tuesday when they let him go home. Maine says later that day he had a minor heart problem and was taken back to Bay Area Hospital. Late Tuesday night, they transported him by ambulance up to Sacred Heart Hospital at Riverbend in Springfield. He later passed away there with a doctor by his side. According to Maine, Jackson leaves behind his wife Linda, numerous children, and 25 to 35 grandkids. The commissioners hope to have his funeral in a facility that holds lots of people. But for now, Maine will join the many local residents, officials, and fellow public servants in mourning the loss of a man who he said made our community a safer and better place to live.
So, I guess we'll get on, but it's not going to be fun. And he's going to be sorely missed.
In Coquille, I'm Brie Thiele, KCBY News.
In Coos County.